So anyway, this is Paramore's fourth album. And,
Paramore.
And it's the first without their founding members Josh and Zach Farrow. I had to write this bit down. Who kind of fell out with Hayley Williams, the singer, and according to them, they kind of felt she was trying to both water down their kind of Christian beliefs and the band's hard rock sound. These were Paramore are one of these bands that have kind of quite happily kind of balanced on that kind of metal emo punk pop thing for the last few years, meaning they've been at home in the pages of Kerrang as they have been in kind of teen pop kind of magazines. And I think also one of the brothers kind of thought that they were becoming a bit of a manufactured product of the major label.
Okay.
So anyway, the accusation is basically that the band were becoming less rock and less pop, and it would be hard to argue against that on the strength of this album. Whether or not that's a bad thing or a good thing is another matter altogether, of course. We have two ex-Nin people involved, Justin Mendel Johnson, who is the producer, and also an ex-Nin drummer, apparently.
Right.
Alan Ribbon.
Okay.
Also involved in the album.
Okay. Name. Now that name does ring a bell.
Yeah. So I mean, this is again this album. Same in terms of the album. This album goes on too long. That's one thing I'll say straight from the off. And it's another album that's 65 minutes, which is way too long.
We did review a lot of long albums this time.
Yeah.
Now, is this possibly why we've only managed 5?
Yes. So
as opposed to the usual 6.
So there's that.
Yeah.
However, and there's no doubt that all remnants of the kind of heavy metal kind of emo edge have been pretty much sanded down and completely off. And you're kind of left with something that's more akin to Pink, No Doubt type pop rock kind of numbers. So the things, songs like Now and Grow Up and the current single Still Into You, which is very much No Doubt-ish.
Yeah, very much so.
But actually in a good way. I think that's a really good. I actually think Still Into You is a really good track. Yeah. And similarly, elsewhere you've got things like It Ain't Fun, which is very much a pure kind of pop song. There's no hint of it being rock, really. No Doubt crop up again on a couple of other tracks. Opener, Fast in My Car, which I quite like, actually reminded me a bit of kind of Elastica Sleeper, kind of almost Britpop kind of 90s.
But with a sort of industrial edge to it as well. Yeah.
And obviously you've got Daydreaming, which pretty much rips off Dreaming by Blondie, particularly in the chorus of it. But then you've got what makes the album actually quite interesting. You've got a couple of interludes, which are kind of ukulele-based little ditties, which are kind of akin to Ingrid Michaelson type stuff. And then when you get to the end of the album, you've also got a couple of tracks that are more like kind of Relo Kiley kind of country pop almost, but in a kind of interesting way. So I was thinking more of One of Those Crazy Girls and Hate to See Your Heartbreak, which I actually think are two of the more interesting tracks on the album. So I kind of thought it was, all right for what it is. Sure to sell well, and there's at least 3, 4, 5 potential hit singles on it, particularly in America. So yeah, it was alright.
I'd add to that lyrically, I thought it was quite strong in places as well, as opposed to say some of the sort of the pop, the manufactured, and you can hear the manufactured feel to it in places, and you can understand why perhaps some of the band members have departed with that criticism ringing in the remaining band members' ears. But actually, in terms of lyrical content, again, in one or two of the tracks, I actually thought that it was quite engaging in places as well. More so than perhaps I've never really been a Pink fan, never really been a No Doubt fan. I actually think this stands apart still in some ways. Yeah. But it had that sort of strength to it that maybe those other artists, those more established artists, don't have. So I mean, I thought it was again a long album, but that aside, a good mix of rock, alt pop, shall we call it?
Yeah.
And as you say, the odd ukulele thrown in there as well for good measure. A good album, a good album. Not a great album, but